So I actually used to watch Lockup on TV. It was really one of my favorite shows. And originally I had been a business major at the time, but ended up switching to have my major in criminal justice. So years ago, I had always dreamed of going to prison, which sounds kind of crazy. But I know today that God had placed that desire in my heart. So in 2006, I actually started attending the Rock Church, and shortly after I began attending, I found out that they had a prison ministry, so I signed up. Well, probably about 2 months after signing up for prison ministry, I was actually working in corporate America, making 6 figures a year, and was laid off. So I thought, I have no idea what I'm gonna do, but those talents, gifts, and resources that God had blessed me with throughout the years, I wanted to dedicate that to prison ministry and help them out as much as I possibly could. Well, they got me involved, and shortly after that, I actually signed up to be a volunteer inside of Donovan State Prison. And I started going into the prison every Sunday faithfully for about 3.5 years. In the early part of 2007, I was actually offered a job to work for the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation parole offices. And so I was able to work in the San Diego, Chula Vista, and El Cajon parole offices to help those inmates who were being released from prison, to help them back into the community. So I was in prison ministry, involved in parole for a good couple of years. Well, in 2009, I ended up meeting my husband, who was actually on parole at the time. And I never thought in a million years that I would ever meet or let alone marry someone who had been incarcerated. But God had completely different plans. Shortly after we were married, he violated his parole, and it sent him back to prison for 5 months. That was the first time that I was just devastated and thought, God, I've been faithful, I've been serving, why? So at that time while he was incarcerated, I met a couple of other women whose husbands were also in Donovan State Prison. And we just started meeting together and sharing our struggles and comforting one another and, going through scripture of, how this could be a blessing to other people. And although it was painful for us and we struggled, God had a bigger plan. And so the bigger test of my faith was yet to come. Even after having my husband come home, he actually repented and gave his life to Christ. And when he came home the first week, he professed his faith and was then baptized. Well, in 2013, my son was in the United States Marine Corps, and on September 30th, I received a phone call from him, and I couldn't imagine what the words that were going to come out of his mouth, but all he said was, "I'm in big trouble," and I knew it was really bad. Well, he ended up, he was selling drugs, and he was caught, and they were ready to prosecute him, and he was looking at 10 years in a federal prison. The one thing about federal prisons is that they could put him anywhere in the country, so you don't have any control over that. So that was my first thought, and I can honestly tell you that even though my husband went in and I cried out to God, it was so different when it was my son. I asked God why. Oh, sorry. For the first couple of weeks, I didn't really have a clear head, but I knew God was there, and with everyone's prayers, I had this comfort that I can't even begin to describe. But I knew that not only was I in a position to encourage my son, but it was building my faith and strengthening me in a way that I could have never imagined. And I'm so thankful for that experience of what God has done. 6 months went through, he had a trial, and instead of 10 years, my son ended up receiving 3 years, and he only served 10 months in the Miramar Brig, which then I could go visit him every weekend. And actually, I had been teaching reentry classes there and was nervous of whether or not they were gonna allow me to go and visit him, but I was able to do that. And it's been a blessing. Although some people might look at it as the worst thing that could ever happen, I know today that my faith is so much stronger, and he's prepared me to be able to encourage and bless other parents. And that's why we're here, to show others that God is faithful and he loves us, and he will never leave us nor forsake us. And if we really want to walk that walk, we are not going to walk through life without facing trials and tribulations. But we can have the confidence and hope that Christ will always be there for us.